Hello and welcome to the Galblade News. In today's story, the border between Australia's two most populous states, Victoria and New South Wales, is closed after a spike in COVID-19 cases in Melbourne. The outbreak in Victoria's capital has seen hundreds of cases in the past 2 weeks, more than 95% of new Australian infections. Until now, the two states had maintained open borders, even when others had shut them. Closure beginning on Wednesday will restrict travel to permit holders. Victoria's Premier Daniel Andrews said it was a joint decision with Prime Minister Scott Morrison and NSW Premier Gladys Berejiklian. This is one of those precautionary measures. It is one of those things that I think will help us in broad terms contain the spread of the virus, Mr. Andrews told reporters on Monday. He gave no indication of when the border might reopen. Flying between Sydney and Melbourne, the state capitals, is ordinarily among the world's busiest routes. The three leaders had previously said border closures weren't necessary, but the surge in locally spread cases had caused alarm. This is unprecedented in Australia. We have not seen anything like this, said NSW Premier Gladys Berejiklian. Mr. Andrews said those who have had unavoidable travel could apply for permits to cross the border, including for work. He acknowledged the decision would have a significant economic and social impact, but said it was necessary given the significant challenges we face in containing this virus. Victoria reported 127 new infections on Monday, its highest daily increase since the pandemic began. Just a month ago, when no cases were reported on 2 days, state officials had hoped they were nearing having the virus contained. On Saturday, authorities enacted a hard lockdown on 9 apartment tower blocks in Melbourne, confining 3,000 people to their homes after a cluster of cases were found. Residents in at least 36 hotspot suburbs were put into a separate lockdown last week. Unlike those in the tower blocks, they can leave home for work, exercise, care and grocery shopping. The military has also been sent in to help Victorian authorities carry out a testing blitz. At least 20,000 people are being tested per day. The outbreak is threatening Australia's relative success so far in suppressing the virus. Despite the latest spike, case numbers remain low compared to many nations. Since January, Australia has recorded 105 deaths and around 8,500 cases. So is this a concern for you? Are you actually in Australia or within one of the two areas that is having a closed border? Or are you someone who's actually in a country like myself, in the United Kingdom, who is actually quite jealous of how Australia has responded to the virus? We represent, I think, now the third highest in deaths. I think Brazil, a couple of days ago, kind of exceeded us. But that in itself is still very concerning. Or are you quite calm about this? Do you think, relatively in comparison to the rest of the world, that you're doing okay over there? Do you think the distance that you have and the fact that you're a separate island means that you actually have a bit more control of who comes and goes from the country? Whatever you think, leave your comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.